Hey guys, this is Comic Uno, and today I am doing my top 10 Kickstarters of the month. I did this series last month, and I really enjoyed it. I love featuring creator-owned books. I think Kickstarter is a really cool platform, and yeah, I just want to promote upcoming creators or creators that have been in the industry for a really long time and completely going solo with Kickstarter. So first up, I'm going to mention two Kickstarters that I didn't put in the top 10 because they're both friends of mine, so I really didn't want to be biased and put them as number one and number two on this list, which I definitely would have. So I'm trying not to be biased and really just pick groups and comics. I don't know the person personally behind it. So two Kickstarters I am going to mention you totally should back up. First up, we have Phil's Haunting. This book's about a character, Brahm, who is the, usual protagonist that has the weight of the world on his shoulders, but this time Brahm's like, nah, I just don't care if it hurts people. I just want to kind of live my life and that's it. So he's kind of the opposite of the hero we usually get to see. And what I really enjoy about this book is that it really focuses on atmosphere, and I think that's so important with horror books that some books tend to forget. So also there's a really good ensemble cast that's growing here, and just a really fun book. Coloring is so good for this book as well. So go check out Haunting if you're a fan of ghost stories and horror books in general. Moving on to my other friend, Pat Shand, who's working on Cherry Gilbert, which is part of Destiny New York, which is a series that he's been working on for years. And this is a spin-off series with some heavy hitters on this book. We have Vita, hopefully I pronounced Vita's last name right, Ayala, who is actually a Marvel writer, who is co-writing with Pat. And this is more focused on the college age. So Destiny New York is about characters that are in their mid-20s. So it was nice to kind of go back because the main character of Destiny New York did go to Destiny University. So we're getting to see a little bit more of that aspect, more of the school aspect that maybe you might be used to in Charmed or something like that, which Pat did write. So artwork is superb for this book, and I'm really excited about it. You can never go wrong with Pat's books. So those are all honorable mentions, but obviously they would have been in my top 10, but again, didn't want to be biased. So let's get into the top 10 though. Number 10 for me is Dreadstar. So Dreadstar is from Jim Starlin, who has done a lot of great big books for both the big two, where we get to see the Infinity Gauntlet. You might know something about that. And then also A Death in the Family. So the Jason Todd death story, the original Death in the Family story, he wrote that. And he also wrote Dreadstar. So this is not a new character. We have seen this character before, but Jim has not worked on this character since I think it was 25 or 30 years ago. So he's finally picking up the pen again. He had an injury with his hand, and this is the first time we're seeing Jim draw in a really long time for a character that he obviously has a passion for. So I thought that was really cool, and if you like sci-fi type storylines, definitely go check this one out. Or if you've already heard of the character, go check out Dreadstar. Moving on to number 9, which is Sony. So Sony is another horror book that honestly was pretty creepy when I was scrolling through the page. So it's kind of like this Chucky type storyline, very dark, I think it might be black and white art too, unless it's going to be colored later. But yeah, creepy Chucky-ness going on, child's play. And the reason why I said it creeped me out is because you have this doll that's kind of like Chucky-like that I guess is based on the comic, and it's the first image is whoa, okay. His eyes are looking at me. So yeah, if you're looking for a creepy horror story or just a creepy Kickstarter page, go check that one out. Moving on to number 8, which is Kith Kin. And what really attracted me to this book was that it's an all-female, or at least a lot of women working on this book. So it's an anthology book of upcoming creators working on short stories. And I thought that was really cool. And yeah, go check that out. I'm always there to support up-and-coming creators. I think that's so important and really a great thing that Kickstarter has the opportunity to do. Moving on to number 7, and this one I think just launched, and that is Storm Riders. And this is just a lot of themes that I particularly like, and that's dancing and motorcycles. Now, the reason I like that, not that I dance every day or I ride a motorcycle, but I love when something that's a little bit more masculine or mechanic could combined with something more feminine. So I thought that was really cool. And what I also thought was interesting is that this is a male protagonist who is a dancer, and then you dive into his motorcycle background. So definitely two things that you wouldn't necessarily think combined, and that's what's so wonderful about these type of stories, see how they are similar. So definitely was interested in that one. Moving on to number 6, and that is Colorblind. So this is a book about depression, and our lead is an artist. And what really attracted me to this book, obviously anything that delves into mental health, I'm always very interested in. So that was number 1. But B, I really liked the art. For a book called Colorblind, you really want something to do with either the lack of color or a lot of color. And in this regard, there's a lot of color. So I love the coloring overall, just for that thumb, for the interior. So I really enjoyed that aspect. So that's number 6. Moving on to number 5, which is Jimmy Palmiotti's Pop Kill. And that has to do with business and action. So that's always fun, and I think it actually has to do with like a soda pop company. So that definitely sounded interesting to me. But what I really thought was interesting about this, obviously Jimmy being a longtime comic book creator and jumping into Kickstarter. This is not the first time he's done Kickstarter, but I think it's always interesting to see, A-list comic book creator not going to another indie company and trying to do it all on their own and using Kickstarter. So that I thought was very interesting. And then B, to see more of an X-rated book from an A-list comic creator who has worked for Marvel and DC. So it definitely seems like there's going to be a lot of censoring here, and it's always cool to see a creator that you wouldn't usually get to see that with explore that side of the story. So that's number 5 for me. Moving on to number 4, which is kind of a comic strip series, and that is Love and Collectors. So I believe this is actually collecting a collection of comic book strips. And what's cool about this, the story is about this guy, and I guess it's based on real life, where he loves his wife and he loves his comic book collection. And that's the story. Like, how does he balance his marriage with his love for comics? And I just thought that was very relatable, a lot of fun, and yeah, something also very different. And at the same time, I'm like, how has no one else thought about this story? So yeah, I thought that was really cool and just really unique, which is why it was higher on the list. Moving on to number 3, which is an Indiegogo. I know I say it's top 10 Kickstarters, but sometimes I'll throw in an Indiegogo here and there because it's also, a crowdfunding platform. So this one's called Dark Threads, Surfgirl's graphic novel. And it is a longer title, but I was so impressed with the artwork. The artwork looks like something you would find from Marvel or DC. Definitely mainstream artwork, which is cool. Really, really detailed. And also the story was really interesting, where we get to see this girl, average girl, surf girl, who kind of finds out about her past. It looks like there's other kind of heroes coming out of it too, and their designs looked really awesome, something familiar but also very different. So I love the art, love the concept, and I thought it was pretty cool. Moving on to number 2, hopefully I pronounced this title right, PALOMINO, I think that's it. And this is a book about music and crime in LA and a father-daughter relationship. So like everything that I really enjoy in stories. I love a good crime story, good mystery. I love father-daughter relationships in books, and then I also love music that's instilled in a book. And with this one, it has to do with an ex-cop who becomes a musician who has to figure out a crime or, figure out what's behind the crime. So unravel the mystery. And I really like the art. I think it fit really well for the idea of this crime noir story. But yeah, I just really like the concepts, and I'm excited to see an ex-cop become a musician and how he went down that path and how this will affect his relationship with his daughter. So yeah, it was just a lot of themes I tend to enjoy, and it really stood out to me. And I always think it's very impressive to have music in a book because it's a stagnant medium. So how do you add something that you hear to read and visually see it? I'm always impressed with that, and that's why I love that aspect in comics so much. Moving on to number 1, which is Animalheads, and this impressed me so much. And I think this is the second time where the number 1 or number 2 pick has been a webtoon / tapas storyline, which if you haven't checked out webtoons or tapas, go check it out. I think there's some really great stories, especially if you like slice of life stuff. I think a lot of people forget about webcomics, and there's still really valuable tools of storytelling and really good stories out there, and there's proof of that. And I'm so glad that Kickstarter is giving those creators the opportunity to sell to retailers and sell in print, and really utilizing both mediums, which is cool. So I always enjoy that. But anyways, going back to Animalheads. Animalheads is about these college students who graduate and are like, oh shit, what do? We can't get a job. Oh, I know, we'll just join the criminal underground. And they end up becoming criminals. And it just looks like a lot of fun. It's also a lot of pages. I think it's like 300 pages for a trade, so I'm definitely gonna go check this one out. The artwork is really, really good. It fits the webtoons side very well, I feel. And yeah, I love that type of style where you can really show the distinct personalities of everybody. So I was really driven by that one, and I thought the thumbnail looked really good for it. Again, just showcasing all the characters and their personality, and just a really cool, I think, relatable in some regards premise, even if it's escalated to joining the criminal underground. But I think a lot of people could relate to, after college, what do you do with your life? Because you've had all the structure for your whole entire life, and then you're like, oh, now what? So I thought that was a really cool concept. And yeah, that's my number 1. Let me know in the comments below if you end up backing up any of these Kickstarters. All in the description. There are links for every Kickstarter I mentioned. Please go support these creators, and hopefully you guys enjoyed. And let me know in the future if you have a Kickstarter going on so I can help feature it, or, you know, consider it for the top 10. I will be doing this every month towards the end of the month. So probably the last week of every month, I will do a video like this. So hopefully you enjoyed. This is Comic Uno. Go check out my Twitter and Facebook. Go check out my comics, Like Father, Like Daughter, and They Call Her a Dancer. And every Tuesday at 10 p.m. Eastern Time is Comic Book Weekly, where we discuss our favorite comics. So be sure to check that out. Bye, guys.